Hello there, it's Elliot here. I hope you're doing very well wherever you are in the world today. I thought I'd make a video to get things rolling again on the channel, and I was stuck for what to do, so I thought I'll just talk about some of the films that I've been watching on Blu-ray over the past few weeks and months. I have a pile of films right here to talk about, so hopefully you could take some of these as recommendations for things to check out. And I've got quite a mixed bag here, a variety, so there should be something for everyone. Firstly, I want to talk about this. This is the Indiana Jones 4-movie collection on 4K Blu-ray, and I think this has been one of the biggest releases of 2021 thus far. I know a lot of people have been very happy with this 4K set, and I can confirm that I am one of those people. I think this is a great collection of movies, looking brilliant and sounding brilliant on the 4K discs. Now, I'm not particularly nostalgic about Indiana Jones because they weren't a part of my childhood like films such as Star Wars or perhaps Jurassic Park would have been. However, I had a great time revisiting these. Even the fourth film, which I know a lot of people really do not like, I had great fun. It's just one of those fun adventure romps that you can just put on. And I know a lot of the purists, a lot of the die-hard Indiana Jones fans really don't like the movie, but I enjoyed it. I know someone will ask me in the comments, my favourite is the third film, pretty much just because it has Sean Connery in, and he's so charismatic in this film and many other films. So yeah, that's all I have to say, but I had such a fun time with this. I also recently rewatched Fargo. This is the original film from the Coen brothers, not the TV series, which I've still not seen yet, but everyone tells me those series are really good, so I need to get on that. But I picked this up the other day because I didn't actually own it on Blu-ray, and I'm hoping that it'll get a 4K release sometime soon, although this Blu-ray looks very good indeed, so perhaps it isn't quite desperate for it like some other films are. Anyway, the film itself, I think it's a masterclass in how to make films in an authentic way, because there are a lot of conventions that the Coen brothers go against in this film and in all of their films really. But for example, the main character of the film, Frances McDormand's character, isn't in the film for the first half hour at least, which is just a really strange decision, but it totally works and you don't even realise that when you're watching the film. It's just a great story that I love to revisit every now and then. And like many of the Coen brothers films, it is so quotable. There are so many great lines in this film, and they just have a knack for writing dialogue. So Fargo, this was such good fun to revisit. And I've seen on this disc actually that there's an audio commentary with Roger Deakins, the cinematographer. So I need to check that out soon because I've just been consuming the Team Deakins podcast all through lockdown in the last year and a half. So yeah, I need to check out the commentary. But that's Fargo. This next Blu-ray is one that has had a lot of people excited recently. It is Mirror from Andrei Tarkovsky. This is the Criterion Collection release that has just come out. And yeah, loads of people are excited for this because Tarkovsky is one of those big names in the history of world cinema, and his films have affected so many people's lives, me included, and it was great to revisit this film. I'd only seen it once before, and to be honest, the first time I didn't get too much from it because I just found it so perplexing and enigmatic. But actually revisiting it now a few years later, I actually got a lot more out of it, even if I can't quite put my finger on why I find it such a powerful film. Sometimes with Tarkovsky's films, I think there can be a lot of intellectualizing about the films themselves, and that puts a lot of people off from actually giving his films a go, because you hear so many people talk about how his films are slow or they don't have a particularly strong narrative, and I totally get that. I can see why people say this, but you don't have to be some film scholar to actually enjoy these films and be moved by them. Just the images and the sounds, and in this film in particular, the sense of memory and dreams, It can just be really powerful cinema no matter who you are. So if you're someone who's been on the fence because you find Tarkovsky and his cinema daunting from what you've heard about them, don't be scared. I'd say just give them a go. Although, actually saying all of that, Mirror might not be the best one to go for first, because it definitely, to me, is his most enigmatic, like I said. But anyway, this seems to be a great release. I haven't actually gotten through all of the special features yet, but there is a documentary from a few years ago from Tarkovsky's son, which I really want to delve into. But that's enough about Tarkovsky and Mirror for now, but I greatly enjoyed checking this film out again. This next film is one of those new film discoveries that I've made during the last few months. A film that I fell in love with instantly, and it's just a damn shame that hardly anyone talks about this film at all. The film is Valmon, and this is from director Milos Forman, who is famous for making Amadeus and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and so many other great films. But this is one in his filmography that I just hear no one talking about, and it's taken me this long to actually even discover that the film exists. If you're familiar with the film Dangerous Liaisons, starring John Malkovich, this film is based on the same story, the French novel that film was based upon, which is also what Cruel Intentions was based upon as well. So it's one of those books that's been adapted quite a few times now. And I think this was being made at the same time as Dangerous Liaisons. So this just came out, I think it was a few months before or after, and it just sunk into obscurity. Even though it has brilliant performances from Colin Firth and Annette Bening and great direction and cinematography, it's just one of those films that, just sadly doesn't get talked about a lot. This Blu-ray is from Italy. I got this on the Italian Amazon, and it was super cheap at the time. I don't know how much it is now. It's remastered in 4K, it says on the back. So I imagine eventually this will come out in the US and the UK. But yeah, I just hope more people can get into this film when it does see a release over here. So yeah, put this on your watch list if you're a fan of Milos Forman or the story, Dangerous Liaisons. Switching gears completely, a film that I rewatched recently and got so much out of the rewatch is Widows. This is the film from Steve McQueen, and I got the 4K disc. I got it really cheap. I think I got it for about £6. So I thought, why not stick it on, see what it's like? Because I saw this when it came out in the cinema a few years ago now, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was like, the best thing since sliced bread, which I know some people did at the time. And again, this is one of those films that has just kind of, sunk into obscurity because not a lot of people talk about it. I think it's one of those films that has been relegated to just syndication on television, and it's just one of those thrillers that just pops up and people will watch it if it's on. But no one really talks about the great filmmaking that is on display here and some of the brilliant performances. If you don't know the story of Widows, it's about the widows of these bank robbers. The bank robbers are all killed during the heist that they're trying to steal a load of money. And one of the widows discovers the plans for the team's next heist. So all of the wives get together and they put this plan together to steal a load of money because they're in desperate times themselves. So if the premise grabs you, definitely check this out. I have a real new appreciation for Widows. Next up, I've got a romance film. This is for all of those romantic people out there. And this is one of the classics of the genre that pretty much any romantic comedy draws from. And the film is Roman Holiday. Now, this is the German Blu-ray, hence the German title. But the actual Blu-ray disc itself is the exact same as the US and the UK disc. I got this from Germany because it was half the price on Amazon, and I thought, well, I'm not going to pay double just to have it with packaging that's in English, because I know what the film is, basically. But if you've not seen this, it's an absolute gem. And like I said, it's the blueprint for pretty much any romantic comedy nowadays. It stars the absolutely charismatic duo of Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn. They're so magnetic on screen. And I just love them as a couple in this film. It was shot entirely in Rome, which is quite a peculiarity for American films at the time. Not many of them were shot completely on location and in studios in another country. So that's something to point out. And it's directed by one of my favourite American filmmakers of all time, William Wyler. And if you're not familiar with William Wyler, you might be familiar with some of his films like Ben-Hur, or even going back to the 30s and 40s with Dodsworth and The Heiress, etc. He's a really interesting filmmaker, and there was a documentary series a few years back. I think it was called, was it Five Came Home or something like that? And it was about these 5 American filmmakers who had a career in Hollywood, and then they went off to World War II to take part in the war. And afterwards, when they came back, it was looking at how the war had affected them and their filmmaking. And William Wyler was one of the 5, along with some of the best filmmakers of all time in John Ford, John Huston, George Stevens, and Frank Capra. So, if you want a kind of history lesson in great American filmmaking, just watch that documentary and check out the films from all of them. Anyway, I'm blabbering on way too much. This is what I wanted to avoid, so I'm sorry, but Roman Holiday, if you can get it on Blu-ray, definitely check it out. Now for something completely different, I have Serial Mom, and this truly is something totally different to Roman Holiday. This is the John Waters film from the 90s, and it pretty much does what it says on the tin. This is a typical mom, but she is a serial killer. And it's just a lot of fun. I watched this with my girlfriend, and we were in stitches throughout and thoroughly engaged. And this was me introducing her to John Waters, because if you know his filmography, it can be quite shocking to anyone watching for the first time. And this is perhaps one of his more easier films to get into. I wasn't going to show her Multiple Maniacs or Female Trouble for the first time. So this was a good introduction, I think. But it's a very funny, entertaining film. This was another film that I picked up from Germany just because it was so much cheaper to import it. And I think there was a UK Blu-ray, but it's out of print. So I got this for about £5. But yeah, very enjoyable. Highly enjoyed rewatching this. I also had a great time with The Incredible Shrinking Man, which on the surface level sounds like it's just going to be a throwaway 1950s sci-fi film, because you get what the film is about straight from the title and the cover art. But there's actually so much more to this film. It's really deep, and there's like a lot of philosophical existentialist ideas in the whole premise of this film, and it has such a powerful ending to me. I think this is definitely one of the best sci-fi endings of the period for me. And I wanted to watch this because Criterion recently announced that they're going to be releasing this film on Blu-ray. So I think I will be picking that up in the future and perhaps doing a comparison of the two. But if you're a fan of science fiction films, if you're a fan of, the Twilight Zone, that kind of type of science fiction storytelling, The Incredible Shrinking Man is absolutely brilliant. And if you're in the UK, you can get this Arrow Video Blu-ray pretty cheap most of the time. So yeah, definitely give it a go. I highly recommend it. I also recently watched Mona Lisa, and similarly to The Incredible Shrinking Man, this is due to have a Criterion Collection Blu-ray release very soon as well. Now this has been out from Arrow Video in the UK for quite some time now, so it will be interesting to see if the Criterion one is a big improvement in terms of picture or sound, or even just the supplemental features. But this is one of the great classic, I think, modern British films. The film follows Bob Hoskins, who is hired as a chauffeur for these gangsters, and his main role is chauffeuring this prostitute around and making sure that she's safe getting to and from where she's got to go. And at first he tries not to get too involved with her, but as time goes on, he becomes quite defensive of her, perhaps almost obsessive. And it's just all about his relationship with her and his relationship with the life of crime that he gets involved with, basically. That's probably not a good explanation, but definitely check it out. I just think it's a great film, and I think it's going to be introduced to a lot more people with this forthcoming Criterion release. So yeah, that's Mona Lisa. Okay, one more film and then I will leave you be to have a good rest of your day or night, wherever you are. The film is Sullivan's Travels. This is a 1940s comedy from the brilliant director Preston Sturges. This is the Arrow Academy Blu-ray. It is also available from the Criterion Collection over in the US, but this is a fine release from Arrow here in the UK. It stars Joel McCrea playing this filmmaker who is a bit bored of the kind of studio filmmaking that he's been involved with. So he wants to make something real, something powerful about poverty and being homeless. And in order to get to grips with the subject material, he decides to go undercover and play as this homeless man and to meet the kind of people that he would want to depict in a film. And that's how he bumps into Veronica Lake, who's playing this actress who's come to Hollywood, but she hasn't made it at all. And she's thinking of just going straight back home and giving up on the dream. And there's this play between them both because she doesn't know that he's this great film director and he's, you know, kind of smitten by her and he wants to help her out, but he also can't give up the ruse of him playing this homeless man. The thing that struck me the most about rewatching this now is that it's pointing a real finger at what we would call poverty tourism. And this is still completely relevant today, 80 years on. And what I mean by poverty tourism, this is when rich people, artists, etc. feel like they need to tackle the subject of poverty and people that are living what they would call miserable lives, and you know how the human spirit endures and all of that. And what this film is saying is that, you know, why don't we just make films that, you know, make people laugh and make people feel good? Why do people feel the need to almost exploit that way of life, exploit these people? Because when filmmakers are making a film about poverty, at the end of the day, when they finish making the film, they can all go back to their luxurious lifestyles, and the kind of people depicted in this film are just left, you know, to go back to their lives of poverty. I think it's a very interesting topic of discussion, and I think when addressing the subject in film, you know, perhaps it's a delicate balance. It just needs to be addressed in the correct way, and it doesn't have to all be miserable, or it doesn't have to be condescending and all of this. Because in the last 10, 15 years, there have even been big awards given to these kinds of films that I just don't agree with, because I'm not really sure what purpose it serves other than to make us, you know, the kind of privileged film goers, just make us feel good about ourselves. So yeah, that's a bit of a rant. I don't know if I made much sense there. So anyway, I had a great time watching Sullivan's Travels, and hopefully you can too if you've not seen it before. So there we go. Those are just some of the films that I have been enjoying during the past few weeks and months. Thank you very much for sticking with me in this video to this point, because like I said, I was feeling a bit rusty at making these videos, not as confident as I used to be. So hopefully I can get back to my usual way of doing things. But I really do appreciate just you watching these videos and liking the videos and leaving a comment, etc. So thank you very much for being a part of this channel once again. Anyway, with that, I will say thank you. Have a great rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will be back very soon to talk movies. So stay well and keep watching great movies.